on live here on Dylan Knows, episode 133.
Wow.
Wow, yeah. Man, I'm getting old, aren't I? It's April 3rd, 2016, and it's freezing here in Baltimore. Of course, where my co-host MJ is, it's a beautiful day. Right, MJ?
Beautiful day here in the Carolinas. Beautiful day. Can't complain at all.
Son of a gun. Grr.
Yeah.
Just crazy. The wind is just howling like crazy up here. But, at least I'm not alone. I've seen some of the other people that, on Twitter, like saying, yeah, wind is huge, howling like crazy and stuff like that. So, lots of retweets.
Keep that up there.
Yeah, we'll keep it up there. So, and then it's going to be like 60 degrees and rain tomorrow. There's going to be like 40 degrees on Tuesday. Then it's going to be like 65 on Wednesday. And then it's going to be 50. It's Maryland.
Can't make up its mind.
Can't make up its mind, no.
But, you guys always have a beautiful summer, so.
Yeah, we do. Should be interesting. So this is my show, obviously 133 episodes, so I've been doing it for a while. It's the first week of April 3rd, 2016, and that means it's Comic Talk. I've had my co-host MJ Khan on. We actually had you on, I think, twice last month to get all caught up. So now
back on schedule.
Back on schedule now, so that's good. And I was just telling MJ before the show started, is like the next time we meet, we do our show, it'll be the weekend that Civil War opens, and that's the movie that both MJ and I are dying to see. So
wait.
Just the next time we get together, 1 month, be like, hey man, what about Civil War? I'm a complete and utter nerd. I've already put in for May 6th off that Friday.
I did too. So I'm completely off that day.
Exactly. So I'm just gonna go and say, you know what? I'll go what I usually do on my days off. I'll go get breakfast from Chick-fil-A. I'll hang out around a little bit and then go to the movie theater and then do whatever I want to, because it's gonna be a beautiful day in May. It's also gonna be the day before Free Comic Book Day, and I'm gonna be we'll be talking about that a lot, because Free Comic Book Day is a huge day in comic world, in the comic industry, I should say. And this is our comic book show. So it's got a lot of cool stuff. When I started doing this show, I always wanted to try. I did it at the beginning of the month, because the week before the show would come on, the previews would come out, which is the ordering Bible that the comic stores use, and it's a 2-month in advance order. So I've worked at Diamond Comics before, and I know how the system works. But basically, if you own a comic book store, you're gonna want to get stuff ahead of time. You want to order your stuff ahead of time. You don't want to order it the month it comes out, because that's just not going to work. They got to print it. They got to do all this stuff. So they have their catalog is 2 months in advance. So this is the April catalog. So all the stuff that's in this April catalog is coming out in June. And it's a big month. June is going to be big this year, because that's when DC's Rebirth is going to happen. So that's when it's starting and stuff like that. And also it's when Civil War 2 is going to start in Marvel, in their comics. So we'll be doing, I always want to do, some look through the previews and do some recommendations, but I had gotten away from that because I wasn't buying previews as much, because really I look at it once and then that's it. I don't have an account in my store, because I never know when I'm going to order stuff or when I'm going to go. And it could be like 6 months, like this past, I hadn't gone to a comic store in almost 9 months until recently. And then because I just didn't have the money and I couldn't afford to. So if I had a subscription at my local comic store, I'd have 9 months worth of, well, actually they called me before that, but
we're not going to hold these much longer.
Dude, you've got like $1,000 worth of comics. You need to buy them now. We're going to give them away.
This will be Free Comic Book Day. We'll turn your stash into Free Comic Book.
Exactly. There you go. And I'll admit it, early on, like after I graduated from college, I was starting on my own. I did get subscriptions at other stores, and I lapsed and I got in trouble, and I got kicked out of one store. My subscription was I didn't get kicked out literally, but I mean, they just stopped, I hadn't been coming in. So they just stopped, pulling stuff for me, and because I was afraid, I never went back to the store. I've gone back, occasionally, but it's not as local as the one is up here. So they're always trying to get me to do something, but I think they know by now that I've lived here 12 years now. I think they know me pretty good, that they know that there are going to be times they're not going to see me for a few months. So it's like, okay, we're not going to push, getting him a subscription because I never know when we're going to see him. So, but I am coming back slightly. I've been starting to to get back in it slowly because I'm at that point where I just feel I'm out of chronology now. So I there's a lot of books that I used to read that I haven't read in a long time. So now I'm just like going after books that are like number ones and starting things that are interesting to me. And also there's some interesting Rebirth stuff. So we're going to be going over the creative teams. They announced the creative teams for the Rebirth books. And there's still, the funny thing is though, there's still 2 Rebirth books they haven't announced a creative team on yet, which is fairly interesting. Of course, the books aren't coming out till September, but still, it's kind of interesting. We'll get to those in a second. And there's some very interesting things going on. And believe it or not, when I was a big DC guy, Batman always seemed to be like one of my favorite comics. But with this new Rebirth, I absolutely love the creative teams they have on Superman's books. So I'm excited about that. So I'm going to probably get back into that. We'll talk about that in a second. But speaking of Superman and Batman,
there was a little bit of an event that happened, a week ago. Yeah.
Our favorite movie that we love to tear apart has finally come out. Yeah, before it even came out. And I've been trying to figure out time to see it, but there was someone telling me, it's like, you don't want to waste it on 2.5 hours of your life. You got other things to do. And then I got this dental surgery I had to get taken care of. So I was in a lot of pain last week. So I was like, you know what? I probably should have gone to see the movie then, because then I'd be extra angry at it. But no, I said, no, I can't. But
or you wouldn't care at all.
Exactly.
Just be numb and like, I don't care. It's fine.
But one of the other main reasons why I got MJ as my co-host is because he goes and he takes one for the team all the time. So he actually went and saw Superman Batman. So we'll get his take on that as well. He also saw Daredevil season 2. Which I've been behind on Daredevil, but during this time frame where I've been having this extreme pain with my teeth, I haven't been sleeping really well. So I've been coming downstairs at 11, 12, 1 o'clock in the morning, and I've been sort of getting caught up. So I watched the first 5 episodes of Daredevil's first season, and I'm dying to see the rest of it, and we'll get into a little bit of that as well. And of course, tonight is also a big night. It is the 90-minute season finale for Walking Dead. Yep. The moment that, I'm going to call it right now, is going to be one of the highest rated episodes that they've ever had, because it's going to be, because it's the first appearance of Negan. Everybody knows Negan, they know him from the comics. Yeah, people have been, and they've been building to that this season to have Negan pop up. Though I think, and we'll get this and when we talk about, but I think that The Walking Dead is going to piss off a lot of people tonight, and not because of who they kill, right? But the fact is, we're not going to know who they kill until the season premiere in October. I think they're going to pull cliffhanger on us. That's the rumor now, is that it's going to be one of those things that the last shot of the episode is going to be like a shot of Negan from the viewpoint, the POV of the person who's going to get ready to get killed, and then you see Lucille come down, and then might fade to black, and you hear something like that, and then the episode's going to end. So you're going to be like, it's like, who shot JR again? Oh my god, who did he even kill?
This better not be a dream sequence, though. Whoever he killed better be dead.
We'll talk about too. So let's see, what should we talk about first then? Tell you what, since I've been talking a lot, MJ, and we've been talking a lot about this for a long time. Tell me how bad Superman Batman was.
Whew. Well, first of all, I don't want people to think that, I'm biased or I'm a Marvel guy. I'm really not. I just like a good movie. And, Man of Steel had its moments. It wasn't the greatest, but it wasn't as horrible as people thought, even though, all the destruction and everything. So, I went into this, I had an open mind, even though I had a feeling that it wasn't going to be the best. I still like, okay, let's see what the story is like. Zack Snyder, this movie just makes me afraid for the Justice League if he's going to do this, because he's a good director, I guess. He kind of frames action sequences well. But first of all, it's 2.5 hours long, which is probably an hour too long, because this movie could have been told in 90 minutes easily. The first 2 hours, I don't even know what happened the first 2 hours. It's like everything is crammed in the last half hour of the movie. The first 2 hours, you're just kind of sitting there like, what in the world? There's no story really to be told. It's confusing. And I guess if you're not familiar with the characters and you go just to watch a spectacle, it's fine. But if you're familiar with the characters, if you kind of have an idea of the Dark Knight, that this is kind of loosely figured around, it's just a mess. I mean, I don't know how far you want to go in as far as spoilers or anything, but there's not a story. I don't really, when I think about it, I'm trying to figure out what Superman wanted in the movie. Like, why was he even there, basically, other than to fight Batman? Lois Lane, she was another wasted character. I mean, honestly, if you had to cut her out of the entire movie and kept the movie the same, it would be the same movie. I mean, I don't know why she was there. Poor Martha Kent. I mean, I don't know, Dylan. It was just, you hear a lot of bad things from critics and you think, oh, it can't be that bad. But the critics were really kind of right with this one. And I think the box office is reflecting that. It's gotten a lot of bad word of mouth. And I know that it's got its fanboys who are going to like rant and rave and like, this is the best thing ever to hit the theaters, but it's really not, and you can tell that Zack Snyder doesn't understand the characters. He knows who they are. He knows what they can do, but he doesn't know how they should do the things that they do. Case in point, there's a scene where Superman appears to save Lois Lane. She's in, I don't know, someplace in the Middle East. So there's a hostage situation. The guy's holding her with a gun to her head. Superman just kind of like drops out of nowhere because apparently he just, is always attuned to where Lois Lane is when she's in trouble. And the guy's holding a gun to her head. He's like holding her close to him. And all of a sudden, Superman, he's so fast, he just like kind of blurs, hits the guy, and they go crashing through like 2 or 3 brick walls. And I'm thinking, there's probably 100 different ways that Superman could have solved that situation without pulping this guy. And they're like, oh, he's not dead. I'm like, I'm pretty sure he's dead. Somebody moves fast enough that you can't see them. They hit you so hard that you go traveling with them through 2 brick walls. I'm pretty sure he died painfully. If he wasn't dead, he died in a couple of days from internal mushed injuries. So, I'm like that. I just don't see him acting like that, and then, oh gosh, I'm telling you, the fight scene that they led up to in the first 2 hours, that didn't make sense why they were fighting. I mean, if they wanted them to fight, they should have just followed the storyline of The Dark Knight and figured out a way to say, okay, you know what? Batman is feeling that Superman's becoming like an agent of the state or something like that, or he's out of control. But this contrived reason that Lex Luthor came up with to put them together to fight, I'm like, that makes no sense at all. And Lex Luthor was another one. I like Jesse Eisenberg. But, I don't know. I guess he was like the son of Lex Luthor, which makes me think, well, why does he hate Superman? How does he even know him? I mean, Superman's been around for months at this point. Lex Luthor is the son of why is he so mad at Superman? Why is he trying to get Batman to kill him of all people? I'm like, this is ridiculous. Batman is supposed to be like the greatest detective on earth, but he gets manipulated by Lex Luthor Jr. into killing Superman. It's just, it was just really a bad outing. And I think what happens is, I swear I think this is true. I think that Zack Snyder threw all this stuff out there. Then he's going to sit back and watch the internet and watch Twitter to find all the holes that people poke in it. And then in the next movie, he's going to try to fix those holes, because that's what he did with this one from Man of Steel. I mean, they must have said 5 times whenever there was a fighting scene or something, oh, this section of the city's deserted. Okay, I can understand Gotham being deserted at night because everybody's afraid of everything. But why is Metropolis deserted at night? But every time something would happen, one of the characters made it a point to say, well, this is the deserted section of the city. So nobody was getting hurt. I'm like, it was just silly. A lot of it was.
They might not physically be getting hurt, but you'd think that unless they were abandoned buildings or warehouses, right, that you're destroying somebody's livelihood. And
I'm still pretty sure there were people getting hurt. I mean, Doomsday was like leveling entire blocks. I'm like, oh, that whole waterfront's deserted. And, I don't know the relationship geographically between Metropolis and Gotham, but I'm pretty sure they didn't look at each other across the lake, which is how this was set up here. I mean, they're literally, standing on a building in Metropolis and they can see the bat signal in Gotham being shown in the sky. I'm like, what is going on here? And it was just that type of nonsense. Lois Lane was just running all over the place where the scenes that she was in for no reason. There was a photographer in the hostage situation that was killed point blank. One of the guys shot him in the head. Then you find out, well, not later, but it's like Zach is talking about it later. He's like, oh yeah, that was Jimmy Olsen. Why would you do that? Who kills Jimmy Olsen like that? And if he's, I just don't understand why you would do something like that. and poor Martha Kent, she's like Lex Luthor's hostage, which is how he forces Superman to fight Batman, by taking Martha Kent hostage. I'm like, all right, you can hear Lois Lane yelling for help half a planet away, but you can't find your mother in the same city. It's ridiculous. How can you not find your own mother? You can hear her yelling for you across the planet, but oh God, his mom, and it's awful, the stuff that goes on in that book. And, I wanted to like Lex Luthor, but I didn't. Some of the CGI was even bad, which I would think that as much money as they spent on the movie, that would have been the best parts of it. But, there's an iconic picture of Superman in space, like after they've been hit by a nuclear weapon, where he's, emaciated and kind of like drawn until the sun hits him, then he fills back out again. It looked like something that Asylum would do on a sci-fi Saturday night movie. I was so mad when I saw that scene. It was just ridiculous. But I don't know. Wonder Woman was good. I will say that. I did like her character. I think she was a little bit wasted as Diana Prince because, why they had her running around as Diana Prince, you'll have to see the movie to see how ridiculous that reason was. But once she showed up as Wonder Woman, I think that was really good. And if that's an indication of what she's going to be able to do in her own movies, then we're in for a treat with that. But as and Batman, I have to say, I was not as upset with Ben Affleck as I thought I'd be. It's one thing, he did a pretty good Bruce Wayne, but the Batman action sequence, they were pretty good. I mean, it was a different style than what we're used to seeing from Batman, so I actually kind of like that. But I don't know, the whole Batman Superman thing was just weird. And the end of it, Batman had a kryptonite spear which he was going to use to kill Superman, and that's what Superman ends up using on Doomsday. And I'm like, why did he have to do it? He could barely move because he had to carry the kryptonite spear. Why didn't they give it to Wonder Woman? I mean, she's right there. She's practically invulnerable, as strong as he is. Why didn't she use it? I don't know. The whole thing was just ridiculous. And they just, you walk out of the theater after 2.5 hours, you think, God, I just spent 2.5 hours watching that. And,
And then, I'm a spoiler person, so I know everything that goes on. The ending with what goes on with Superman, and that was kind of odd. And a lot of people are thinking that because of that, it's going to be revealed that in Justice League Part 1, he's going to be the bad guy. He's going to be being manipulated by Darkseid. And the vision that Bruce has, is going to come true. And then the whole thing with the Flash coming to warn him also. I've always liked that kind of stuff where, something happens from the future that you're going to see eventually when it actually in the back. That always seems kind of interesting. But it's just, to me, I think the disrespect that it seems like they're disrespecting Grant Gustin as the Flash because he is an excellent Flash.
He is.
And then they bring in Ezra Miller. Nothing against him; he's an actor.
Right.
He wants to work as well and make money. But to do something like that, and you don't really get to know him all that well. So I mean, you just get a very quick thing. But the fact is, you bring him in real quick and have this little, hey, something's going to be coming. It's almost like it's like an after credit sequence in the movie. In Marvel, they do the after credit sequence, which is setting up the next movie. This one, we don't know if it's going to be in Justice League 1 or Justice League 2, or if it's going to be in the Flash movie and whatever. And they're gonna try to do a combo. It's just it's one of those things that it's a very divisive. Again, some things that the people who hate it are going to go out of their way to say how terrible it is, how awful, and stuff like that. And then there are the people who loved it, who are going to tell you that the people who hate it are idiots and that it is the greatest movie of all time, greatest superhero movie of all time. And then you've got those people on social media saying, oh, they're making all these records. They're making more money than Marvel's movies are. Not really, because, you had a big opening. But once again, most of Marvel's movies have opened in May.
Right.
And that is the beginning of the summer season. And they have much bigger competition than you do in March.
Exactly.
And so the fact that Marvel is able to make a lot of money might not be as much as, say, Superman and Batman made. But the thing is, what you need to understand is you need to have that second week. Yes, a big opening weekend is huge. But if you want to be a successful movie,
right,
you need to be successful for a couple weeks. Look at Deadpool. Yeah, you could argue that Deadpool opened in February with not a lot of competition. But here's a few things about Deadpool. It was like what, a $1.30, an hour 30,
Right.
hour 40, something like that.
Hit the
So you can
ground.
fit in, you can fit in more viewings. Okay, that's one thing that I don't understand why filmmakers don't quite get it. Yes, you're making a 2.5 hour movie and you're making it epic and all that stuff. But if you want to, if you believe that, to show, and these people believe it, the fans, so they say, look at all the money it's made. If you want it to make a lot of money, you make it short.
Right.
Ant-Man was short. That's one of the reasons why it made so much money it did, because it's fun and it's short. And it's not 2.5 hours long. It was like, that was a $1.50 or something like that. So you can get more showings of it in a day than you can a 2.5 hour movie, because movies keep coming out, so eventually they're going to need to, you might open Batman Superman in like 3 or 4 of your theaters, but then those theaters are going to start having one person in it, and you're losing money there. Whereas there's another movie coming out that might not make as much money as, say, a Superman Batman, but it still has a fan base. And if you don't have a theater open for it, you're not going to make the money, So that's when they start cutting the views down, and you start opening other movies there.
And those movies, they have a tail too. I mean, Ant-Man was in theaters for months, it seemed like. I mean, and people were still going to see it. This one, I just don't see that happening with this. I really don't, because even if, the people who are the diehards about it go back and see it 2 times, 3 times, the other people are not. You're not going to have that variety of people who want to see it again. Like when I saw Captain America, I couldn't wait to see it again. This movie, I'm like, I don't even think I would watch it on cable.
But then I know everybody out there saying, but Dylan, what about the Force Awakens? That made a ton of money. It was a 2.5 hour movie. Well, almost a 2.5 hour movie. It was like 2 hours and 15, but it's a totally different genre. It's Star Wars.
Right.
It came out at Christmas time. So you're going to get the big, and you're going to have the diehards. I mean, talk to somebody who's a Star Wars fan. I talked to my cousin John, who was yesterday at an engagement party for my stepbrother, and I talked to my cousin John. It's like, he's a huge Star Wars fan. I said, how many times have you seen it? I saw it 3 times.
Yeah.
Okay, that's understandable.
Right.
But he's paying full price all those times. And then my boss at work is a huge Star Wars fan. He saw it 4 times, I think. That was repeat viewing. But if you watch Star Wars The Force Awakens, it was a entertaining, action-packed film that, people really like. And you could say, well, Batman Superman was much, and this is the thing that drives me crazy. There are people on the internet saying, oh, Batman Superman is such a smart movie, people didn't understand it. They didn't understand the stuff, that the build up and all this stuff. They didn't understand it. And they prefer the idiotic stupidness of the Marvel movies, which are, you just fight a bad guy and stuff like that. People are stupid. No, from what I've heard,
right.
This
was much worse. There was so much stupidity in it. I mean, he kidnapped Martha Kent, and like I said, that's how he forces, Batman's or Superman's hand. But, what did Martha do to anybody? First of all, she's like working in some diner and walking down a dark alley in the middle of the city. I'm like, I thought they lived on a farm outside the city. She gets grabbed. They've got like Polaroid pictures of her with the word witch, scribbled across her forehead, and they're showing Superman all these pictures of her. And I'm like, what? It looked awful, the things that they must have been doing to her. I don't know, torturing her or something. But then I'm thinking, Superman and Batman, they get into this fight. It's going horrifically, whatever. Batman's about to actually, kill him with the kryptonite spear. And he says the word Martha, which I never made the connection that was also Bruce's mom's name as well. So suddenly they're best friends because their moms have the same name, and Batman's telling Superman, don't worry, I'm going to save her. Nothing's going to happen to her. Well, I'm sorry, but you go off and you have to save her? What is Superman doing all this time? He doesn't even reappear until after you saved his mom. And it's like, why didn't you go? Do something. You couldn't find her, and then
or go together.
Go together, team up. What? I don't even know where he went. Superman disappeared. Batman goes to save his mother, Superman's mother, and Superman's not there to help. I mean, I don't know what you're doing. Then the kryptonite spear is thrown in the water, and then when they're fighting Doomsday, Lois Lane goes to get the spear. I'm like, how did she even know she's nowhere near the fight scene. She's in a different city, I think. But she goes to get the spear so that Superman can then kill Doomsday with it. How does she even know what's going
that's
on?
smart. That's smart, though. That's why it's such a smart movie.
And once again, she gets trapped under the water while she's going to get the spear because the rubble follows on her. So she's tapping on the concrete in another city, and Superman hears it. They actually show him in the middle of the fight with Doomsday. He's like, what's that? And he hears her tapping on the thing, knows it's Lois Lane, I guess, and zooms off to get her and save her. But you still couldn't find your own mother. The whole thing's ridiculous.
It's the super poon is calling to him. Oh, I mean, is it true also that there's a scene where Lois Lane's in the bathtub and Clark gets in?
Yes.
I mean, look, that's fine. Look, it's fine. That's fine. You to show a sexual side of your superheroes. It's fine. But come on, man.
Yeah. She's in the bathtub, and yes, he has to jump on her in the bathtub. I'm like, I don't get this at all. I mean, that's why you fly around saving her. Like, for that? You know how many women would throw themselves at him in the bathtub? I'm like, this is ridiculous. The whole thing.
It's the super poon.
Oh, God, it was just, awful. And then some of the stories, I don't know how he was trying to connect them. And the sequence where, Batman has the vision of how does he dream about parademons? I don't understand how that gets put into his head. He doesn't know what's going on, but yet and still he has this perfect dream of Darkseid's world, complete with the parademons. Then he wakes up from the dream, and then the Flash visits him to tell him you were right. And then he wakes up from that dream. So it was like a dream inside of a dream. So, I don't know.
Awful, yeah.
Really, really strange.
I guess in the end, I'm kind of glad I didn't go see it eventually. I mean, I wanted to see it just so I could come back here and say, I told you so, because I had heard such bad things. And, you should always, say things, after, seeing it yourself, and maybe something will change your mind. The one thing that's really got me going crazy is it's when the first reviews all came out, they were all terrible, and then something happens. And two examples is Harry Knowles on Ain't It Cool News and Kevin Smith. They saw it a second time, and all of a sudden, seeing it a second time, they're like, "Oh my God, I love this movie! It is so great! It is such a big heart." It's like, well, the thing is, your first opinion of it is usually the truest one, and a lot of people were claiming that with Harry Knowles, he's always been thought of to be on the take, as it were. I think he mentioned in the second review that he was sitting with like a Warner Brothers exec or something like that. So probably the exec was probably like, you know what? I read your first review. It was you tore it apart. So how about we get you some free Superman, Batman toys and stuff like that? Would you make it can you write a good review? Oh yeah, sure, okay. And then Kevin Smith, I don't understand about Kevin Smith because he was glowing about Ben Affleck. It's his buddy, obviously, but he was like tearing everything else apart. And then all of a sudden he watched it again and is like, oh no, everything else is great as well. I mean, not just Ben, but everything's great as well. And then he makes I think it's him, or I think he said it. It's his, and he's gonna say it. It's his buddy. He's like the Ben Affleck scripted Batman that Ben has said that he has a Batman script already written, and I guess Kevin must have read it. He said it's gonna be the Oscar nominated and it's gonna win all these awards and shit like that. I was like, okay, it's possible it could, because yes, Ben Affleck is a good director. And I guess he's an okay writer. I mean, he's got an Oscar for writing. I guess so. And he's been nominated. He's got an Oscar for directing too, I think. I think he won it for Argo, I think. So he knows what he's doing on that end. But, if you're going to be using the universe that Zack Snyder had created, I don't know so much anymore, And I've gotten to the point where, people keep saying, Batman doesn't kill. And then all of a sudden, all the pro Superman Batman is like, well, here's all the times that Batman has killed. All right, look, that was one of the things that angered me about the movie series, is that when Michael Keaton's Batman is straight out killing people, I was like, okay, it's a movie version of it. I can understand that. Yeah, I don't like it, but then, he's killing people. And then Christian Bale's, to be honest, I have to think back. There's only one time I can think of where he might have straight up killed somebody. Yeah. And that was Ra's al Ghul, where he said, we're evil.
I don't have to save you. Yeah. Like, I'm not going to kill you, but I don't have to save you.
Yeah, exactly. And was he expecting that Ra's al Ghul's going to save himself, or or he's not going to die from a subway car smashing into something? I don't know, but but they're just, and then it's like, oh yeah, and in the comics he's killed people all these other times too. Well, yeah, in some cases he has. If you're going back to the 1930s, Batman was a killer in the 1930s because that's what was popular in the 30s. Prohibition had just ended. Al Capone and all those guys were still pretty popular in the 1930s. We were undergoing a major depression, and so of course you're going to want to have, you know, angers like this. And yes, and Batman did carry a gun in 1939 and stuff like that, and he did kill people. But then all of a sudden, like that, once the war starts, he's not doing it anymore. And then as the character starts getting developed more in the 50s and 60s and 70s, you know, they are saying, no, he doesn't kill people and he doesn't carry guns. And then it's like, well, there's a story in the 1980s where he locks the KGB stuff in a, it's like a sewer, like a subway room or whatever, lock the door and cover it so he can't get out, and doesn't leave any food or water like that. And is like, oh yeah, he just straight up killed that guy because he's not going to survive on food and water. Okay, that might have been a mistake in Jim Starlin's part because he wrote that story, but he needed a way to end the series and the storyline because the KGB was kicking Batman's ass. They had to figure out a way to stop him that didn't seem too out of place. And in the end, it didn't seem out of place at first until people started bringing it up, and then they retconned it and said that, you know, he left enough food or water. He went down there and left enough food. I don't know. They retconned it, so now, you know, and then he comes back later on. He was able to get out, or someone freed him, or something like that. So he was okay. So technically, Batman didn't kill anybody, but that's the thing. Look, I understand, and I say this all the time. If you want to make Batman be a killer in the movies, that's fine. That's your prerogative. But don't tell me that's Batman.
Yeah, that he does Batman that all the time. Yeah, that's the movie. That's
Batman in the movies. Oh no, Batman kills people all the time. No, he doesn't. He doesn't. Oh, he carries a gun all the time. No, he doesn't.
No, he does not carry a gun. So
one of the there are two examples I want to give. One is one of the, and I can't remember who wrote it. It was such a great story where it might have been Robin Year One, and it might have been Chuck Dixon who wrote this. And it was there was a time where Dick Grayson was you know, when he was Robin, Batman was basically teaching him everything that he knew to survive. And there's one sequence where he's teaching Dick how to use a gun. And Dick is like, but you don't use a gun. You're against guns. And Batman's like, but you still need to know how to use one.
Yeah.
And look, that it makes a lot of sense. It's his right to not use a gun. But if there's a situation where you will have to use a gun, you damn well better know how to use it. And you know, the thing is, Batman would use that as a last resort. But if it's a last resort, Batman puts last resorts in his mind. He says, okay, I've got all these other options. If these three aren't going to work, and the only option I have is to shoot someone, I'll shoot them, but I'm not going to kill them. You know, he'll shoot them in the shoulder or the arm or whatever. He's not going to kill them. Yeah, incapacitate them. And then there was another one, which was, if there's any proof that Batman is anti-gun, was this anti-gun comic. You know, they sometimes do these one-shots which are, you know, anti-landmines or anti-whatever, and they're done for a government agency or whatever. But there was one that he was about anti-gun, and it just was one of the, and I forgot who wrote it. It was just so great. It basically laid out the reason why Batman would never use a gun. And it was, you know, such a great story. And as I said, he can do it in the movies because they're different.
Right.
But don't say that's Batman because it's not.
Yeah. And you know, I find it interesting that they're trying to, you know, recreate these movies that Zack Snyder did, or they're going to moving forward, to make them lighter and put some humor in them. Because honestly, there was no humor in this. There was no humor in it. It was very dark, and you could tell they're trying to make Batman. And I know that we'll talk about this later, but they're really trying to make him more like Daredevil. The fight scenes, they mimic that. You know, he's much more acrobatic. It's the choreography is completely different from anything that they've done before. And yeah, so he didn't. Well, I don't know. I think he did kill a couple of them when he was fighting, because, you know, there was a couple of guys that got bent double. I'm like, I'm pretty sure his spine just snapped. So, you know, you could just tell that that's what they were going for. But it was still just a very strange movie. Like, you know, there's a scene where he's trying to steal the kryptonite from Lex Luthor. So he's chasing the trucks that have it. They're firing bazookas at him. First of all, his Batmobile is like, must be indestructible. I don't know what it's made of, adamantium or something, because it's driving through everything. It drives through a boat. It drives through the building. It's like nothing scratches it. And they're firing bazookas at it and destroying the city. Superman drops down, stops the car long enough to open it up and tell Batman, you need to let all this stuff go. And then he flies away. I'm like, why didn't you help him stop those people? They're shooting up the city with bazookas, and they just drove on by while Superman stops Batman's car and then flies away. Like, why did that just happen? I don't know.
Because it's smart, MJ. It's smart.
It's smart, all right. Let me tell you. You know?
And actually, you brought up a really good point. Is that these people are like saying, "Oh, Batman Superman is such a great movie. It's the best comic book movie I've ever seen." Blah blah blah. Well, then why did, after the abysmal critical amount, I think it's like 29% on Rotten Tomatoes now.
Yeah.
Why is it now that you start seeing stories? Well, Zack Snyder said he's going to inject a little bit more humor into Justice League, and then the Suicide Squad is going back in for reshoots for more humor, and then Aquaman is not going to be, dark and mysterious now. It's going to be like a swashbuckling thing with sea monsters and stuff like that. It's going to be fun. And now he's going to have blonde hair. Why didn't you do that at the beginning?
It's going to be like the Super Friends. He's going to call some flying fish and ride on them. I guarantee you. You watch and see if that doesn't happen. So, he will be standing on the backs of some dolphins, surfing across the water at some point. So,
and look, if you want to stick to your guns and make your DC universe dark and disturbing, keep it dark and disturbing. Yeah. It might not be successful. Yeah, don't change it, because Marvel's more successful because of their lighter things. Mm-hmm. Yes, it is light, but if you look at the movies, it may seem like they're comedy laugh riots, but Marvel's success is that they have scripts and directors and actors who are able to convey not just the humor of a situation, but the drama, the romance, the action. Yeah. It's a complete thing. I mean, Winter Soldier was such a great political thriller. And yeah, there's a lot of inconsistencies in it, yes, but you're okay to avoid that. And the thing that bothers me is there's a new YouTube channel I watch called Cinema Sins, where they do everything wrong with all these movies and they show all the mistakes, stuff like that. They did like an 18-minute one on the Winter Soldier, and it shows all the little inconsistencies and the brain farts of the heroes, stuff like that. It's like, okay, that's fine, but it's the entertainment value of it. Yes, it's a comic book movie. It's not supposed to make sense. To be fair, they also destroyed Man of Steel and all the other ones, and Batman Returns and all them, and Dark Knight and all that. They destroy everybody. It's not just Marvel. They kill everybody, and it makes you think, is like, wow, I didn't really think about all that. How do they know this? How you make these leap bounds? I don't care, as long as it's entertaining. It doesn't have to be. It's a superhero world. They're not trying to make it real world. They're trying to make it. This is superheroes in they're like a comic book. It's what happens. I mean, comic books use these flights of fancy all the time.
You just go with it.
You just go with it, yeah. And look, you can do that, and stuff like with Batman, Superman, with how does Lois Lane know that the kryptonite spear is in there? Okay, she doesn't know, but you know what? It's to help advance the plot, but there's just so much else that's wrong with it that those little mistakes pop up and make you think and remember all that stuff. Whereas with Winter Soldier, there's lots of great stuff in it that your mind doesn't really think about. Well, how did they know about this, or how did they know about this? The one thing, and we've already discussed this on Winter Soldier, the one thing that still drives me crazy about Winter Soldier is the fact that when Samuel L. Jackson, after he gets all shot up, he's able to cut the hole in the car and in the street, goes down in the subway and disappears. And the Winter Soldier doesn't go after him. Yeah. We were talking about, look, we love the movie, but both MJ and I, you can go back, the episode was a couple years ago. You can go back. MJ and I tore that scene apart because it was ridiculous. But still, it didn't. And so we're not anti DC or whatever. We if we find something that's so obviously wrong with the series, and then they do it again when they're captured, it's like, how does that happen? Just go down the hole and find them. But the
thing with that is, when it happens, it doesn't pull you out of the story.
Right.
You know, it doesn't jar you. It doesn't pull you away from what's going on because there is a story, there is a plot, it's not just a couple of loosely thrown together things waiting for an action scene to happen. There was an actual story with it, and you kind of get involved in that. With this one, there wasn't. So when these things happened, you were just like, wait a minute, why did that just happen? You know, Wonder Woman, like I said, she's really good, but Diana Prince is running around, and Bruce is like, well, why are you here? And excuse me. And she's like, well, Lex Luthor has something that belongs to me. You know, he has and it turns out it's like this ancient selfie of her from like 1920. And Bruce said, he's like, oh, that's not your picture. That's a picture of you from 1920. Just how old are you? I'm like, that's why she's after Lex Luthor, because he's got some ancient picture of her on his hard drive. Where did he? It's ridiculous. Like, it was so old. I'm like, I didn't think they had cameras back then. It's like World War I or something. I'm like, where did she even get a picture of her taken like that? So I don't know. It was the whole thing was silly. And then he's got like the other members of the Justice League on his hard drive too. He's got Aquaman, Cyborg. I'm like, what? You know, if you know who all these people are, why are you wasting your time trying to, create something to kill Superman? Which I thought you thought Batman was going to do it, but you still had to build Doomsday. Oh, I don't know. The whole thing was ridiculous. So
so I just want to let everybody know that the Marvel movies are good because they are able to combine all that stuff and make it entertaining. Yes, Guardians of the Galaxy is a laugh riot, but you also got to look at the fact that Rocket is a species that gets operated on, and you get the shot of him and you got to think about how did he get those implants and stuff in him. That's pretty rough. The fact that Drax, his whole family's killed, that's why he's angry all the time. Right. And then he gets his ass beaten twice by the guy who killed his family, and he feels like he has, not been able to, honor his family that's been killed because he failed against someone who is much more powerful than them. Right. And and even Star-Lord, that opening sequence with his mother dying of cancer and then the him getting abducted by the scavengers or whatever, that was a hugely emotional sequence, and then you also got the sisterly of Gamora and the other one, I forgot her name, and Thanos and all that. So you've got all these little sequences in there, as well as surrounded by these comedy laugh riot stuff like that, and that's what makes it work, because that's what it's going to be giving. It would be a little weird if when Doctor Strange comes out, he starts like doing dance offs and stuff like that, because that's not Doctor Strange's character. Exactly. Doctor Strange is, he is an obnoxious, egotistical doctor who gets brought down to earth when he's in a car accident and he can't use his hands, so he can't be a surgeon anymore, which is his whole livelihood. Right. So you're going to see that downfall in him, and then he finds a new beginning being a sorcerer. And so he's going to keep the fact that, he's not going to become this egotistical jerk again, because he realizes that I was such an asshole, and I shouldn't have been. If I wasn't an asshole, maybe I wouldn't have this power, but he now has a meaning now, and he knows that he can't be an asshole anymore. He's got to protect people. Right. So you're going to find stuff like that. And Civil War is going to be, they've already been saying it's going to be a deeply traumatic stuff. Yeah, it's going to be emotional. Yeah, it's going to be some humor in it. But I tell you what, the humor is not going to overwhelm what we're actually seeing, which are friends against friends, a literal civil war. They're having, heroes against heroes, with a villain in the background pulling the strings, and then eventually they'll probably discover it, but something tragic is going to happen as a result. And so we've already seen stuff. Iron Man getting the crap beaten out of him by Cap and Bucky at the same time. Yeah, Iron Man might be an asshole and might be on the wrong side, but you still feel bad for him. Yeah, you still feel bad that he's getting his ass kicked. Or, the one line where he says, where Steve's like, he was my friend. And Tony's like, I thought I was too. That's a deeply emotional sequence. And this isn't a spoiler because it's been all over the place. Sharon Carter's going to die. Not Sharon. Agent Carter. Yeah. Agent Carter's going to die because she's already in the throes of dementia and stuff like that. And we know that it starts off with a funeral, and it's going to be hers because there are shots of Chris Evans or Cap in a diner with Sharon discussing, her mom or her aunt or whatever it was. And So it's going to be emotional. Yeah, you'll have some humor. Like, speaking of which, I think after we last talked to now, they released the Civil War trailer with Spider-Man. I don't think we talked about that one. So we got to see Spider-Man in the trailer, which was great because there's your humor. They're getting ready to face each other, and then Iron Man's like, Underoos! And then there's Spider-Man flying in and says, what's up? And that's funny. But it's to break up. But at the same time, as soon as that happens, they're going to fight again. Yeah. So it's going to be friend against friend. I mean, they showed something where Black Widow and Hawkeye are going to be fighting each other. It's going to be a brutal fight this time, similar to the one in the Avengers. But then you get to see some of the cool stuff, like you see Ant-Man on Hawkeye's arrow, shoot like that. So you're going to see a lot of cool stuff. And then Crossbones is going to show up, and there's going to be all kinds of death and destruction. But Marvel is very successful at juggling all the emotions and putting everything together. And that's why those movies are successful. Not because they're all laugh riots, because a lot of them have humor, but a lot of them don't also. Frickin' the first half of Iron Man is him in a cave building an Iron Man armor while his partner is getting threatened with torture, and he's probably been, with the whole face in the water. He's getting shot. He's in utter pain. He's in freezing temperatures, He's not having a very good time, So, and then even then, there are some jokes in Iron Man, but you know what? There's not a lot if you think about it. And then, there's, as I said, there's only been really like 2 real laugh riot movies that Marvel's done, and that's Guardians and Ant-Man. But that's because those characters are the way they're going to do that. I think you're going to see a bit more of the subdued Guardians. They'll still do some more humor, but I think you're going to see the humor level drop slightly on Guardians because the story is going to progress to another point where it's going to start getting more emotional. And same with Ant-Man. I mean, that could be a fun little caper thing with the Wasp. We'll see what happens. And then Spider-Man, who knows what's going to happen with that? Spider-Man is a wisecracker because he's nervous. He's scared. He's a teenager. He's also nervous and scared about what's going on. Yeah, he's got all this power and stuff like that, but he's still taking on these guys who could kill him or his family.
And he's dealing with that, right?
He uses it as a defense mechanism. So, you'll get your humor there, but that's the character, though. Now, if you would have gotten the characters, Superman is not dark. Batman's dark. That's fine, know. And again, I said, if you want him to kill people, you kill people, but don't call him Batman or a good interpretation of Batman, because it's not. It's the movie version of Batman, and that's fine. If you want him to kill, that's fine. But and I guess if you want to make Superman be the same way, I suppose you could. But come on, man, Superman. Batman in the comics is dark. If you want to try to get to be with the comics, then you got Batman down pretty good. You made him extra dark with the killing. But Superman is not dark.
No. And he's also not stupid in the way he uses his powers either. He's not just some brute force machine that's, swoops in and just starts smacking people around. That's just not, what he does.
And he's here to help people. He doesn't care who it is. Doesn't care. He's not just helping Lois Lane. It just so happens that Lois Lane needs a lot of help because she's always getting into trouble. But you know what? Lois Lane is not getting into trouble 24/7. So he's spending his time, he's helping people in other countries. He's helping people across America. And the reason why is because he was raised by the Kents. And that's the other thing. That's one of the reasons why he's the way he is, because you had Kevin Costner, who it wasn't his fault. It was the character that was written for him. But Jonathan Kent is not Kevin Costner's version. Jonathan Kent. Kevin Costner could have done an absolutely brilliant comic version of Jonathan Kent. I think he could have succeeded if they would have written him as the comic version of Jonathan Kent, as being the one that is supporting Clark and helping him to say, you need to help everybody, because that's the whole point. You go to Kansas. Kansas is the breadbasket of America. It's the one where, they believe, they're highly religious. They highly believe that you need to help people and stuff like that, and not just, I'm worried about you. So I don't want you to tell everybody who you are. No, you want to help people. That's what you do.
Don't save anybody. And that was part of what happened in this one too with Martha Kent. She has where she's talking to Clark and she's like, you don't owe these people anything. Save them, don't save them, whatever. You don't owe them anything. I'm like, Martha Kent would never say that to Clark. Don't worry about them. Don't save them. You don't owe these people anything. I'm like, actually, that's not how any of this should have happened. But it's just, and he goes on some hike up. I'm like, I don't even know where he was going. He's walking up through Antarctica or whatever. I guess he's going back to his Fortress of Solitude and has a vision of his father. He's talking to his father. I can't even remember what they were talking about. It was so ridiculous. Next thing you know, Lex Luthor has Lois Lane. And so he's like, I know how to get Superman's attention. And he throws her off the top of a roof. So Superman's in Antarctica talking to us. And once again, he comes swooping in and catches her before she hits the ground. And I'm like, God, he must just be like, after that stuff all the time, because he's like, he knows where it is. No matter what else is going on in his life, he knows where she's at. So,
oh well. But did you see the Supergirl Flash crossover?
Yes, I did. And I thought I did like that, because again, I've been pleasantly surprised with the Supergirl universe. And I love the Flash. So having his brand of humor injected into it, they worked really well together. And it was a fun episode. I think it worked well. The ending of it, I was like, that's it. Spray some water on them, they're done. I'm like, oh,
Yeah, I guess it was just getting the spectacle together. They had to get them together. Now, the one thing I want to talk about Supergirl, which I think it was our last show, one of the other shows we did last month, but there was something that came across the wire that it was renewed for a second season. And now there are reports that it hasn't been. So I don't know what the deal is. So I don't know, because the Supergirl team is talking as if they're going to be setting up their second season.
Right.
But then there are articles I'm reading that, CBS has renewed all their TV shows except for Supergirl. So I don't know what's real anymore. And did Supergirl get an early renewal? And then the people who are doing these articles just didn't remember that or whatever. I don't know. Or maybe something happened. I don't know. So, we'll see what happens about that. So we'll move on to some other stuff as well. We talked about Spider-Man, the new trailer, so that was always fun to see him doing that. Let's see what some other interesting stuff going on. Any interesting more? Speaking of Batman, Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo finished their run on Batman. In advance of the Rebirth. There's like two issues left before they do the Rebirth, but their 50th issue was like their last one together. They used a method that they use in comics all the time, which is unbelievable again, but it's comics and you just accept it, where Batman was injected with something that cleaned out all his pain and suffering. So now he's like even though he's like in his upper 20s and early 30s, he's now like a brand new guy. All the scars and pains and stuff like that are gone. So like a brand new Batman now. He's got a new costume and stuff like that. Bruce Wayne is back as Batman. So, I guess it's interesting. I mean, they're gonna detail it more in Rebirth, so that's the setup. But the comics world and the movie world are different, so that's fine. The DC is going to get into the young adult novel sequence. Maybe you could write one sometime, MJ. Yeah. The first one is coming out in 2017. It's going to be about Wonder Woman, so I'm not exactly sure how they're going to do it. If it's going to be an adaptation of something, because the Wonder Woman comes out, I think, next year, 2017. Yeah. So I think it'll come out in time for that. And then they said they're going to do some more young adult type of novels, which is cool. I mean, it's good to get more people reading. It's all that matters. There was talk that Jennifer Lawrence she said she was done with doing Mystique and all these X-Men movies. Now she's turned around and said, you know what? I wouldn't mind doing some more X-Men movies. So we might get some more Jennifer Lawrence X-Men movies.
That's called a paycheck and new back-end deals that were written into the contract. So they think, okay. I'll do it.
Yeah, you're probably right. Yeah. You sent me this, the first pictures of Arseface for the Preacher show. Done pretty good. And then I got blasted when I guess at SXSW or something like that. They showed some like 15 minutes of footage for the Preacher premiere, and they were talking about it. And it turns out that the whole thing is the voice of God didn't really come from God. It came from like space aliens. And so I wrote a little thing saying, why can't you just, no, it's a voice of God. It's a big it's a preacher. That's the whole point of it, you know. Why does it have to be from space? And I got these two guys that came on after me saying, "You're a fucking idiot. You don't know what you're talking about. Why don't you make comments until you see the movie or TV show and see how good it is? You're a freaking idiot. You're a moron, you know. You're and I think that was like, he's a blithering fanboy or something like that. Why don't you go slither away or something like that?" So I was like, "You're fucking assholes." I'm not even going to respond to that. There was another guy who defended me, which was fine, but it's just like, you know what? It's not. And I think I mostly said this: if you're going to make a change like this, why call it Preacher? You know, it can be, you can have a similar story, have similar characters, but don't call it Preacher, because it's not Preacher. Preacher denotes religion. The voice of God denotes religion. Thus, God should be a character in a TV show called Preacher. Don't you think? But what about, he might be from, and then I think one guy said, God could be from space. We'll see.
And Preacher comes out next weekend, I think. Or, after Fear the Walking Dead, I think, the first episode.
Yeah, it comes out, so it'll be out in May, I think. In May, they're going to, it's going to be on Sunday, so they do have the Sunday 9 o'clock spot. So after Fear the Walking Dead, Preacher's going to be on in May. So it'll go Walking Dead, Fear Walking Dead, Preacher. So, I mean, I'm still going to check it out because, you know,
I'm definitely going to,
Yeah, Seth Rogen says he likes the character, and they've done enough that, you know, they're going to keep it as close to the comics as they can. But I do understand, you know, maybe you don't want to bring the hugely religious aspects of it, because there are people out there who don't want to have that on their TV or, you know, whatever.
Well, then they're in for a treat when they see the stuff that Preacher does. So.
Oh, yeah. And then speaking of making things darker, the Tick has been announced to have, was it Amazon it's Amazon, an Amazon show. So they're going to redo the Tick as an Amazon show. It's not going to have Patrick Warburton because he signed on to do something else. So he's not going to be the Tick again. So it's a live action Tick movie. They said it's going to be darker and more grounded. It's a Tick movie.
How can you make the Tick
TV show? Yeah, or grounded. You just can't.
It's ridiculous.
So it's probably gonna fail. So we'll see. Is that all the news I have? Yeah, there's not a lot of news that we don't know about. Other than that, I mean, it's been mostly centered on Superman, Batman, and also we'll talk about some Daredevil now. Let's give you my take real quick. I haven't watched the second season yet, so I don't know what's going on about that. But I watched the first 5 episodes of Daredevil, and I must say, great acting. Great casting, great action. Vincent D'Onofrio is fantastic as the Kingpin. I love his version of the Kingpin as being this awkward, shy type of guy. And you can see it because he was made fun of probably when he was younger and stuff like that. And so he doesn't know, but he can snap in a second, as he does when he decapitates the dude in the car, which is great. And then Rosario Dawson's awesome as Nurse Chapel. She's fantastic as the nurse. Eldon Henson as Foggy is fantastic. I love him. I mean, his hair, he needs a new haircut. But
the character is great. The interaction between them,
exactly. And then they got Karen Page down pretty good, but she annoys me because she's always getting into trouble and doing stuff that she's not supposed to. But you need to have that, I guess, to continue the plot. And I know what happens to him, and I've already prepped in my head, but I love Vondi Curtis Hall as Ben Urich. I wish they would have kept him around a little longer, but he was really good. And then Charlie Cox, of course, as Matt / Daredevil is really good. So I really enjoyed it. And it's great. It's fun watching the series, not have to worry about commercials and or you know, any like you have graphic violence, but at the same time, it's not overwhelming so far in the 5 episodes. I mean, you decapitated a dude's head, but guess what? They just show him slamming the door, and you see the guys, moving, bopping up and down. You see the blood dribbling down, and then you hear the thunk when the head comes off, stuff like that. So you know what happened, but it's not
mob violence. It's like, okay,
it's not extraordinarily gory, and just the fact that you're not constrained doing things, about not being able to do things is good too. So I found the first 5 episodes fantastic. I know I still got a little ways to go, but I liked them and enjoying them immensely. Yeah. Now that being said, tell me about your review of season 2.
Season 2 is really, really good. They actually up the graphic level, so it is more violent. I don't want to say it's darker because it maintains the same tone as the first season, but the violence is definitely upped a little bit. But Shane Barenthal's the Punisher. I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about that, but let me tell you, that is like an amazing character. He nails it. It's like, I don't remember what it's John Barenthal. I'm sorry, Shane from The Walking Dead.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, I knew what you were talking about.
If you had, if Rick had like cut Shane loose in The Walking Dead and just let him do what he needed to do, that's kind of what the Punisher's like. He's the exact opposite of Daredevil. He believes in, the only way to stop these guys is to put them down once and for all. Otherwise, they're going to get out of jail. They're going to come back, which is a theme that you see with some of Daredevil's criminals that he's put away. They even tell Daredevil to his face, they're like, go ahead, put me in jail, knock me out. I'm going to be out in another, 2 months or whatever. But, the Punisher is like, nope. He goes, once I put them down, he goes, they're not coming back. So, and that's what he does. He is just mowing through the underground of like, all these, the mafia, all these people that have come up to, to Hell's Kitchen. He has no remorse, doesn't think twice about it. He's just like, he's a killing machine. And it is awesome to see him cut loose on these people. But then again, the story is still there too, because there's a scene where he actually has Daredevil captive and they're having this conversation about their methodology and why who's better and who should be doing what. And it's just like, it's so good. And then of course the season's kind of broken into two parts. It's like the first part's the Punisher, the second half is the Hand. And I think the Punisher storyline is much stronger than the Hand storyline. People who don't understand what the Hand is, they're probably thinking, this is kind of weird, but it's the Hand. They're supposed to be weird. They're mystical ninjas. So you do see a lot of that. Electric, shows up in probably like the third episode. The actress nails that. I mean, it is just like you completely forget about the whole Jennifer Garner mess. This actress completely nails it. She's got the chemistry between her and Daredevil is there. You see the conflict in her of not understanding why he doesn't go that extra mile. She's like, so kill them, she's kind of thinks more along the lines of the Punisher, but it's really good. I loved every bit of it. I binged the entire thing in like a day and a half. So
does she get into a red and white outfit or?
No, actually they're really good about the outfits. Hers is more of like black with the red accents to it, but it makes a little more sense than what she wears in the comics. But she just really, really pulls it off. Stick is back in it again. Of course, Claire's there, so it makes a reference at one point to Jessica Jones and the world that she's in. So it's just a really, really good series. Karen gets into a lot more trouble. Every time you turn around, I'm like, my God, this woman, she's like, she reminds me of, what was her name? Daphne from the old Scooby-Doo. Every time you turn around, somebody's kidnapped her or tied her up or put her in the corner, so Karen's always in trouble. But, it really does work. Foggy's great. It's just, I am loving this universe that Netflix is representing. And I can't wait for, September 30th, Luke Cage comes out and, then Iron Fist after that. But, I love this universe they've created on Netflix.
And this is one thing this is one thing I forgot to do, and I didn't remember till you were just chatting. They did cast Colleen Wing in Iron Fist, so I don't know who the actress is off the top of my head, but she will be in Iron Fist. So
yes.
That's good. That's good that she's going to do that too. So I'm looking forward to. I hope that things are going to start calming down a little bit when it comes TV wise, because. Fear the Walking Dead isn't as big of a deal for me as the regular Walking Dead is. Right. And I really watch that, and I watch Face Off, which is getting ready to end its season as well in the next 2 weeks. And then there's Winona Earp, which is a great comic-based TV show. I like the first episode. It was just the first episode came on Sci-Fi Friday. Yes, it's very by rote. Yes, it's very. We've seen it a million times. But you know what? It's still fun. It's still fun to watch, and it's a great show. It's a fun little thing to begin your weekend. Is just to sit and just watch this woman kicking ass and great characters and fun stuff, and just don't think about how crazy things are. Yeah, I miss Helix, and I wish Helix was on, but and because it's more original. But it's still, this is something fun to watch though. So, good. So once all this happens, there's really not much else coming out there. So hopefully, I'll be able to get more into the Daredevil and try to get caught up, and then Jessica Jones, and then hopefully maybe I'll be able to get everything done
in time for the next,
including Daredevil season 2, in time for Luke Cage in September. So hopefully, maybe that'll be my new goal now, is to have all the Netflix shows watched by the time Luke Cage shows up in September. So that's my plan on that right now. So that's good. So we talked about that. Let's see. There's only, I guess, 2 more things really to talk about, which is Free Comic Book Day and Rebirth. We'll end in my previews suggestions. I'll do those real quick. The new previews came out this past week. The cover is Dark Horse. Mainly because Dark Horse is going to be celebrating their 30th anniversary this June with a Dark Horse Day on June 4th, 2016. So they're going to have like a promotional event and stuff like that. I don't think it's going to be free comics or anything like that, but there's a contest you can enter via Dark Horse where you can win like a pizza party for your store or something like that. So it's kind of cool about that. So, it's kind of a neat cover. The cover's by Duncan Figaro, and it's actually it's a fold out. It's got all the characters that are in Dark Horse's comics. Hellboy's there, and the Mask, and Conan, and Aliens, and all this stuff, and Sin City, and so it's great. So that's the biggest thing about that. So what I did was I just took like maybe 1 or 2 from some of the big ones, and then some independent ones. So there's not many. I'll just go over them real quick. Dark Horse has Hellboy in Hell number 10, which is the final issue of Hellboy for the foreseeable future, by Mike Mignola. He might still pop up occasionally, but any news stories about Hellboy are going to be on the back burner for a little while because Mike Mignola's been working on him for a long time. But he's got this whole other universe built up where he's still going to be around. The BPRD is still going strong, and Baltimore is going strong, and all these other characters which are in that same universe. So that's good about that. DC is the main reason why I wanted to buy this preview is because Rebirth starts in June. They'll have a preview book in Free Comic Book Day, but it actually starts proper in June with DC Rebirth number 1, and then not all, but some of the new number 1 starting over again. The ones that are coming out in June that are going to be part of the Rebirth, they're going to have a Rebirth issue. So it's going to be like Action Comics Rebirth number 1, which is going to set up the Action Comics universe for the new season. And then Action and Detective are both going back to their original numbering. So Action is going to be 967 and Detective is going to be like 970 something or whatever. I see you. My son's coming down. So Action and Detective are both going to be out in June. Batman's going to be out in June. Green Arrow, Green Lantern, the Hal Jordan Green Lantern one, Superman, Aquaman, Flash, and Wonder Woman are all going to be out in June. So all those new number 1s and stuff like that, and we'll get into the creative teams in a second. But they'll all be out. So the biggest thing about DC is the Rebirth stuff, the Rebirth special, the Rebirth specials, and the new series coming out. So that's a big thing in June. But also something good for kids. Target is doing a DC superhero girls line, which is dolls, action figures, T-shirts, costumes for girls mostly. And then they've done like little mini cartoons that are on YouTube, but then they have like a regular cartoon that's on like a channel I don't have, like Boomerang, something like that. Okay. And my daughter loves comics and she loves superheroes, stuff like that. She's found the clips that are on YouTube and she's watched them a bunch of times. They have novels also, for younger children. There was a Wonder Woman one was the first one to come out, and it's basically takes place at superhero high school, and it's like an all girls school with the exception of Beast Boy is like one of the teachers, and it just has all the girl superheroes all interacting, and they're you even have bad girls with the good girls. So main characters are Wonder Woman, Supergirl, Batgirl. Then you got Harley and you've got Poison Ivy, Katana, and Bumblebee are all the main characters. And so they've got, as I said, novels and dolls and stuff like that. Well, DC is now going to be doing trade paperback cartoons, comics for the DC superhero girls. So this will be the first one. It's actually going to be a trade, 70 some pages, $10, but it's just real fun stuff. And it's focusing more on girls, but it's a way to get girls who are young interested in the comics, and then gradually, because women are becoming a huge group of comic readers and lovers, so get them now when they're younger is really good. So the new trade will be out. So, and then there'll be more novels and stuff like that. But it's really cool and really sweet. So that's up with DC. IDW is doing a Tales from the Dark Side comic, which is an old TV show.
Right.
And originally it was supposed to be Joe Hill, who was Stephen King's son, was trying to develop a Tales from the Dark Side show. It just didn't come to fruition. So now he's actually going to be doing the comics. So he's going to be doing what he wanted to do. So he'll be telling these horror stories. So the first issue comes out for IDW. Image has Midnight of the I can't read my writing. Midnight of the I'll show you the picture too, because it's Howard Chaykin is back doing a regular he's doing the art, and he wrote this new Image comic, but it's about like a 1950s guy. He's a former World War II, or no, he's I think he's a Holocaust survivor. And he is here it is, Midnight of the Soul. There it is, Midnight of the Soul. So it's definitely Howard Chaykin stuff. And it's a former GI and liberator of Auschwitz who is seriously damaged goods, obviously PTSD. Right. So he decides to grab a motorcycle and go across the country. So it's just basically going to be him exploring the country. So it's Howard Chaykin, 1950s type of stuff. Should be pretty cool. Marvel, of course, has got Civil War II coming out. So, of course, their big summer project is Civil War II. The movie's coming out in May. So, of course, they want to do a similar comic one. So it's going to take over the comic world again. They just never learn, you know. Big crossovers are always big deals. This one, instead of Captain America versus Iron Man, is Captain Marvel versus Iron Man, and they're going to take sides, and it's going to be that's very similar. It's I don't know, but it was really the only big thing. And then Han Solo #1 will be out from the Star Wars branch of that, so that was pretty good. And then I just put this in there. It's funny. They're doing a one-shot called Vote Loki. And it's going to be Loki running for president of the United States in the Marvel universe. So that should be a fun little one shot. I've got about 6 independents I'm going to do real quick. One is from an independent company called Albuquerque Fun Books or something like that. It's a Hillbilly #1. And Eric Powell, who did The Goon, which is a great series, is doing this series, and it's an Appalachian take on a fantasy epic. So basically, it's going to be a redneck Appalachian guy taking on like creatures in the Appalachian woods, you know. So that's just, it looks funny, and Eric Powell's involved. So Archie, not only do they do Archie comics, they also do Sonic the Hedgehog, and Sonic is celebrating his 25th anniversary. My son is into Sonic now. He got 2 Sonic games for Easter, so he's been playing them like crazy. But they're going to be doing a one-shot 25th anniversary one-shot type of thing, Sonic Adventure, stuff like that for kids. Boom Studios is doing the long-awaited Lumberjanes Gotham Academy crossover that people have been asking for. So Lumberjanes is a great series about a bunch of Girl Scouts, the Lumberjanes, and their adventures in like the supernatural woods. And then Gotham Academy is the DC book that takes place in a boarding school. And they're really good. They're different types of stuff. So they're going to be crossing over like a 6-issue miniseries. So I'm pretty good about that. Dynamite, I think last month when we were doing recommendations, you talked about Matt Wagner. Matt Wagner has been working on Dynamite for a while now, Dynamite Comics, and he's been doing the Shadow and the Spirit and all the stuff. Well, hasn't been drawing them. He's just been writing them, but he is going to be writing and drawing a miniseries called The Shadow, Death of Margot Lane. So he's coming back to be drawing, a Shadow series about the death of Margot Lane. So if you like Matt Wagner's artwork,
yeah, I do.
Yeah, it looks pretty good. And, everyone knows Margot Lane and the Shadow. So it's really interesting. Oni Press is doing a fairly interesting book called Merry Men #1. And I've been doing on my solo shows, I've been talking about a bunch of what if scenarios, like, what if such and so happens or whatever. And this is one that I didn't even really think about, but it actually makes a lot of sense. Is this comic is going to be, what if Robin Hood was gay? It's going to take place in the same time frame. But he's been sent to the woods because he had an illicit relationship with illegally illicit relationship with another male, and so he's getting ostracized. So he goes into the woods and keeps the Robin Hood mindset. But there's not going to be a Maid Marian this time. Instead, he's going to be going up against the Sheriff of Nottingham, who is putting in a really brutal anti-homosexuality thing in his kingdom and stuff like that. He's going to be, but it is sets in the Middle Age type thing. So that's just, it's like it's a neat idea, an interesting, a different what if thing. And they're always interesting when you have the what if stories. And you just start thinking about what could happen, and that's what makes these what if stories so cool. So that might be kind of interesting.
Alternate take on something.
And finally, the last one is, I don't know if you remember this, MJ, because I remember it vaguely. This was about 25 years ago. Marvel used to, it wasn't very successful, but Stan Lee came back to write a story called Solar Man. Do you remember Solar Man?
Solar Man, no.
It was 25 years ago, so I vaguely remember it. But Solar Man is coming back finally, but not through Marvel. It's coming through something called Scout Comics or whatever. And Stan Lee did write it 25 years ago, but now it's just going to be like new adventures. They're going to, update the character and stuff like that. So that could be interesting. So those are my my picks for recommendations for coming up in June. So keep your eye out for that. I might do it again next month, depending. But we're going to have a lot to talk about next month with Civil War.
Yeah. On the Civil War.
All right. So now we're going to do the Rebirth creative teams. And then we'll do Free Comic Book Day, and then we'll get the heck out of Dodge. Okay, MJ? All right. So Rebirth is the big new Marvel. Don't call it a reboot, but
it is a reboot.
It's a reboot, or DC rather, not Marvel, DC.
Yeah.
But it is, and I'm not exactly sure how it's going to fit in with the New 52, pre-52, because some of the storylines are pre-52, some are in the New 52. It's sort of like bleeding, sort of like what. And the thing is, the more I think about it, it's a lot like what Marvel's doing now with their Secret Wars. They had all their different groups coming in, how all these different what if scenarios and stuff like that, like the Ultimates and stuff like that, and they're bleeding them together into one universe. So now you got Old Man Logan in current Marvel universe, even though he's from the future, a different future and stuff like that. So DC's society, I think they're going to do something similar. They're going to bleed the pre-52 and the New 52 together, which is what they were trying to do with Convergence, but it didn't quite work.
Yeah.
So they're going to do it this way instead. So these are all the new creative teams. As I said, I think I said earlier in the show, all of them but two have had creative teams named, and all of them are going to come out between the months of June and September. So they're not all coming out at one time. Some are going to come out in June, July, August, and September. So I don't honestly, if you go back to one of our other shows, I gave you all the dates. So go back and watch some of the other shows. I gave you the dates if you really want to know. And then I gave you some earlier right now. But the first one they had was Action Comics, which is going to be out in June. I know that because I just talked about that. It's going back to its original numbering, so it's going to be like 967. So obviously we're going to get our 1,000 issues next year sometime. So we'll get these 1,000 giant, 1,000-page, 1,000-issue type of things. It'll be like $1,000. So.
1,000 different variant covers for it. So it's like,
But with this, though, they've got it. And from what I've heard also is that a lot of these are going to be bi-weekly, which means they're going to have 2 issues coming out every month. And some, like I'll talk about Wonder Woman in more detail, but some are going to have like a regular present time story, and then they're going to have like another storyline by another creative team come out in the second week, that type of thing. And they're going to alternate, or they're going to combine them and have 2 smaller stories in a book. I'm not exactly sure how it's working because we don't really know a lot of stuff. So all the creative teams have extra writers and artists on it. So we don't know exactly what the situation is, or in order to make sure they keep up the bi-weekly aspect of it, you can have, one artist do one issue, and then so he doesn't get behind, you have another artist do another issue so you can keep them going. So So in this case, Action Comics is going to have Dan Jurgens as a writer, which is great. Dan Jurgens wrote some of the best Superman stories from the 90s. Patrick Zurcher, who is he's not an outstanding artist, but he's also not a crappy artist. He's a very good artist, and he has an idea of, how bodies are supposed to be and movement and action sequences. So he's a good choice for that. Is going to be the main artist, but then you're also going to have Tyler Kirkham and Steven Segoviva and Wells. So that could be the alternating art team, stuff like that. So in that case, what I've heard about that is that's going to go back to more of the pre-52 Superman. So you're going to get the Superman that we know and love, the one who doesn't have all these problems with his powers and who is married to Lois Lane. And actually they're going to have a kid together. So they'll have a baby Superman. So I guess Superman likes the super poon,
Cannot get enough of it.
Now, this one is the one I'm really excited about because I like the creative team. The Superman comic proper is going to be written by Peter Tomasi and Patrick Gleason, who did some of the best Batman and Robin stories I've ever read. And to have them be involved with Superman is fantastic. And then Patrick Gleason is going to do the artwork as well. So he's going to co-write it with Peter Tomasi, but he's also going to do the artwork. And then Doug Monkey is also going to do some art for it as well, which I love his stuff too. So Superman is Action and Superman are like on top of my list. Those are two that especially Superman, because I love the creative team. I love Peter Tomasi and Patrick Gleason. Then Wonder Woman, we talked about the rumor that it could have been Marguerite Bennett, but that turned out not to be true. But instead, we're getting Greg Rucka as the writer, which is fantastic because Margarita would have been a great writer as well. But Greg Rucka did one of the best runs of Wonder Woman, so we're going to get to see him coming back. And Wonder Woman is the one that has a distinct two-part story. They're going to have Liam Sharp is going to be the artist of the contemporary Wonder Woman stories written by Greg Rucka. And then Greg Rucka is also writing like a Wonder Woman Year One series as well. That's going to be interspersed in the comic either in the same issue or going to alternate issues. I'm not sure. That's going to be drawn by his longtime cohort, Nicola Scott, she's a great artist as well. So the two of them are doing Black Magic together for Image, which is fantastic. So I like Nicola's work. Liam is okay. We'll see. He's one of those characters that's weird. Now they have this one is weird because I don't know the creators, and it's a weird story. It's called New Superman. And the character is going to be a new character who gets Superman's powers. But it's written by a guy named Gene Yang, who I don't know, and is drawn by someone named Viktor Bogdanovich, which I wonder if he's related to John Bogdanovich, who was a great Superman artist in the 80s and 90s. So I don't know. But so that's like, one of the creative teams that I'd never heard of before, and they're kind of a foreign as well, which is cool, which is fine with me. Then we get into Supergirl, which I'm also excited about. Because we've got Steve Orlando is going to be the writer, and I love Steve Orlando's writing. He's fantastic. He wrote the Midnighter comic, and he's done a really good job with that. So he's going to take over Supergirl, and Bernard Chang is going to be the artist, and he's a solid artist as well. Once again, not a outstanding artist, but he's solid, like Patrick Zurcher is. They're very solid and they're very good, and that's going to be the Kryptonian cyborg is going to be Supergirl's father. So it's going to be a father-daughter conflict type of thing. So that could be interesting. But Steve Orlando, Bernard Chang, I'm there for that too. I think that'll be good too. Then they're doing the Trinity, which is Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman going to be in a book together, teaming up, obviously. And art and story by Francis Manapul, who did the Flash reboot and was on Detective, I think, was what he was doing until he joined up here. So Francis Manapul, he's again another kind of solid artist, but he's very distinct. And then he's got Clay Mann, who's another artist who will come in, I guess, periodically to help him out. So that's Trinity about that. Then there's Superwoman, who is a new character. But what's interesting about this, and I love this, is Phil Jimenez is writing an art and doing the art. And it's like Phil Jimenez is like George Perez, and he's fantastic. And he's also going to have help in the case of, I guess it's a female, Emanuela Lupicon, who I've never heard of before. So, but Superwoman by Phil Jimenez, come on, man, that's going to be freaking awesome. So, as I said before, the Superman series, with the exception maybe New Superman, which don't even know what that's. Don't know what it's about yet. Sounds they got some solid people in there. This is a little weird, though. I like the artist. Justice League is going to be written by Brian Hitch, who we all know from artwork. Really, he did Authority and a bunch of stuff, and had been doing the Justice League of America art and story but now he's just going to write it. And he's got Tony Daniel as the artist. I like Tony Daniel. He's another solid artist. So he's going to be doing the art for Justice League. And they're also going to have Fernando Pisanian, who I've seen before also. I like his stuff also. So Justice League might be interesting as well. I don't think I recognize one name on here, I think. But The Flash is going to be written by Joshua Williams, who I don't think I've ever heard of before. Artwork by Carmine Di Domencio, I guess Italian artist I've never heard of before, and also Neil Googe is going to be doing some backup artwork as well. And I've heard of Neil Googe's stuff. Again, he's okay, nothing spectacular. The next one is Hal Jordan and the Green Lantern Corps. So it's not just Hal Jordan; it's Hal Jordan and the Green Lantern Corps. This one is exciting too because you got Robert Venditti as the writer. He was the one that took over Green Lantern after Jeff Johns left, and did a pretty good job with that. Ethan Van Sciver, who everyone loves his artwork, he's actually going to be on a regular book, which is going to be interesting because the reason why he isn't is because he takes his time and helps the book. But I mean, in that case, they're also going to have Rafael Sandoval, who is another artist I've heard of before, fill in, I guess. So when Ethan is working on his stuff, they'll be able to get the book out on time with Raphael's artwork. So that'd be good. Then there's a book called Green Lanterns, which I guess will be you got Hal on the Green Lantern.
Ones that aren't in the Corps for whatever.
Again, I've only heard of really one person on here. The writer is Sam Humphries. I don't know anything he's done. The artwork is by Robson Ritchie or Rohan or something like that. I've never heard of him. I have heard of Adrian Seif, though. He's going to be the backup for him as well. So we've got that as well. Cyborg is I'd never heard of the writer. His name is John Semper. The artists I have heard of Will Conrad and Paul Pelletier. So they're pretty good. So that's gonna be Cyborg stuff. Aquaman has got Dan Abnett, who I like Dan Abnett. He's a good writer. And he's also got Brad Walker, who's an artist, is going to co-write it with him and then be the artist also. So Brad Walker is going to be the artist. He's also got Jesus Marino as his backup, who's another solid artist. And then a guy I never heard of called Phil Brius. So that'll be interesting. Titans, I think is going to be an older Titans group, like the Nightwing and the Speedy and Donna. That's going to be written by Dan Abnett again, with art by Brett Booth. Now, Brett Booth is one of those guys that I didn't like his early work when he came out, but when he took over The Flash, and Van Jensen was writing it, I thought it was, I got to like his artwork. So that could be interesting because I've always liked the Titans, and to see the older Titans together again could be interesting because they do have a Teen Titans one later on, which I'll get to in a second. Green Arrow is going to be by Ben Percy. I've never heard of before. Artists by Alfro Schmidt and Juan Ferguson, who I've never heard of either. So, and once again, they're aiming more for their movie and TV stuff. So we're probably going to see a more younger Arrow type of character. At least one series, though, is keeping its creative team that's still on it now. Harley Quinn is going to be written by Jimmy Palmiotti and Amanda Connor. They're still writing the series now. And the artist is going to be by Chad Hardin, who is the artist on it right now. So they've got pretty much their group in there. And they've got a backup by the name of John Timor or T-Meyer. So I haven't heard of him. So, that should be good. Suicide Squad is going to be interesting. Because it's written by Rob Williams, who I think wrote the New 52 version, which was awful. But he's coming back, I think. But he's got a major help there. The artwork is by a guy by the name of Jim Lee.
Oh,
Jim
of course, Lee, who we've never heard of.
And because we even though we might not have heard of Jim Lee, we also know about Jim Lee being very late with his artwork. Yes. So they got Philip Tan to be his backup, which is another solid artist. So you've got a team that consists of Killer Croc, Harley, Katana, Deadshot, and Flag. And then they'll have other ones show up as well, red shirts, as we call them.
You're expendable. Let's put you in Suicide Squad.
So we'll see about that. Even though I'm not a big fan of the characters, this one's intriguing. It's Red Hood and the Outlaws.
Mm-hmm.
And Scott Lobdell's coming back to that as well. He wrote the crappy New 52, Red Hood and the Outlaws. He's got artwork by Dexter Soy, who once again is a pretty good artist. But instead of it being Starfire and Speedy along with the Red Hood, it's going to be what I think they're calling a Dark Trinity. So you're going to have the Red Hood, Jason Todd, Robin, who's the Batman. You're going to have Bizarro on the team as well, who is the Dark Superman, and then Artemis, who is the Dark Wonder Woman. So you're going to have them team up. That could be interesting, though. With Scott Lobdell, I might look at that, but
it's not going to be high on your pull list.
Yeah, exactly. But it's intriguing to see the Dark Trinity, though. It might be interesting to see that. Deathstroke, popular enough that it has its own series. Christopher Priest, Carlo Paglione, Ego Vittorino, and Felipe Watanabe. So you've got, I've heard of Christopher Priest, I've heard of Carlo, but the other guys I've never heard of before. So interesting. A few more to go, and then we'll be done. Batman Beyond, they're bringing back Terry McGinnis. For those who might not know, the Batman Beyond that's out now was Tim Drake from the future. Took on the role of Batman. Well, in this case, Batman Beyond comic and the Rebirth is going to be Terry McGinnis. It's written by Dan Jurgens and art by Bernard Chung. It's not Bernard Chang. He's doing another one. Bernard Chung is a different one. So that could be interesting as well. Both of them, I like their stuff. Blue Beetle should be interesting. Keith Giffen is writing that. Love Keith Giffen. Scott Collins is doing the artwork, which should be interesting. But it's going to team up Jamie Reyes and Ted Kord. So Ted Kord's still alive. And so you're going to have two Blue Beetles working together. That could be a mentor student type of thing. Could be kind of interesting. And with Keith Giffen writing it, it should be good. Hellblazer. Simon Oliver and Maura Todd is going to be doing the artwork. Maura Todd is really good. He did the Jonah Hex series with Jimmy Palmiotti. He's a very solid artist as well. So that could be interesting. Simon Oliver, I think, is British, so he'll be able to bring his British sensibility to that. Then we've got All-Star Batman, which is going to hopefully erase the Frank Miller, Jim Lee, All-Star Batman and Robin. All-Star Batman is going to be written by Scott Snyder. So he's off of Batman, but he's going to be doing All-Star Batman. The main art is going to be by John Romita Jr., so we know him. But there's also going to be a bunch of different artists rolling in all the time. So it's going to be like a huge turnaround for artists. So John Romita Jr. might be doing like a story arc, and then he might take a break, and then they'll bring in someone else. So Jock has been signed up to do another art stint, which is good because I liked him and Scott together. Sean Murphy, who's also pretty good, is set up to do some more artwork, and they're going to have more. It's going to focus more on the classic villains, so we'll see more of the Riddler and Penguin and all those, and Catwoman and stuff like that. So that'd be good. Batman proper is written by Tom King, who has been writing the Nightwing or the Grayson thing now. David Finch is no longer doing Wonder Woman, so he's coming back on to do Batman. And again, we know his propensity to not get books on time. So he's got a very capable backup in Mikhail Janin, who did the Justice League Dark artwork for the longest time. So that could be intriguing also. Detective Scott, who's also returning to their original numbering, has got James Tynion IV, who was a great Batman writer, is writing Detective. Eddie Burrows, who was on Nightwing when it started in the New 52, he's back on artwork for Detective. And Alvaro Martinez will be like his backup. So that could be interesting as well. Nightwing, Tim Seeley was the writer on Nightwing for a little bit. He's now the writer on Nightwing again. He's going to come back to being Nightwing. No more Grayson, Super Agent. He's going to be Nightwing again. Javi Fernandez and Marcus Toe are the artwork. I've heard of Marcus, but Javi Fernandez I've never heard of, so we'll see. I got four more for you. Actually, two that have creative teams and two that don't. Batgirl is going to be written by Hope Larson, who I've never heard of before, and artwork by Raphael Albuquerque, which is pretty solid again. And then Batgirl and Birds of Prey is going to be co-written by Julie Benson and Shannon Benson. I guess they're sisters, with artwork by Claire Rowe. So it looks like it's going to be an all-woman creative team on Batgirl and Birds of Prey, which could be pretty interesting as well. Now, the two that don't have any creative teams are the Super Sons. Where did I miss Teen Titans? Hold on a second.
No, I think you.
I did. Yeah. No, I missed Teen Titans. Teen Titans is going to be Ben Percy and John Boy Myers.
Huh.
With Damian Wayne is going to want to take over the Titans, so that'll be interesting. But then we have Super Sons, which is going to be Damian again, teaming up with Jonathan, who is going to be Baby Superman, who I think made his appearance in the Lois and Clark comic that's out now. And I guess they're going to be old enough that they'll be able to work together. So it's going to be like young World's Finest, you know? We'll see about that. No creative team yet, so it's hard to tell if it's going to be good or not.
Right.
If you get a good creative team, maybe. And then, of course, the last one is the JLA, Justice League of America, so we don't have a creative team on that yet. So one name that is notoriously missing is Jeff Johns. And he's leaving Justice League as of issue 50. So I'm wondering if he's going to maybe rejoin. He's going to take a hiatus for a little bit because he is writing the main DC Rebirth one shot, which is like 80 pages, whatever. But that's all really that he's got planned. So maybe he's going to be the writer of one of those two, Super Sons or JLA, or maybe it's going to be his job he's going to step away from writing for a little while and get more involved in getting more people in, stuff like that. So guiding stuff. So we'll see. So those are your creative teams. Some interesting ones, as I said, a lot of people we've never heard of before. So I guess that's intriguing in one way because now you're like, Well,
it could be good because, you don't know their style, what they're doing, what they've done before. So it's a breath of fresh air. Maybe that's what some of these characters need.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So do that. Just real quick, I want to give a couple of recommendations. If you haven't read it yet, MJ, you're a fan of the movie Back to the Future, right?
Yes.
You should read the comic that IDW puts out. It's got 6 issues out already. Okay. And what's great about it is instead of like shoehorning in some other plot line or whatever, it's doing it's basically doing a fact comic, a frequently asked questions comic. So what they've been doing is Bob Gale, who is one of the co-writers of the Back to the Future movies, is writing the comic with some other guys. And there's usually 2 stories in each comic. They've recently done a couple longer form stories. 5 and 6 were longer form stories. But it's basically answering questions you might have about the series. How Marty met Doc Brown. What happened to Biff when he stole the DeLorean in 2015? In between 2015 and then coming back, what happened during that sequence? What happened, after Marty helped his parents get back together? He leaves, so about a year or so later, Marty and his parents are having problems in their relationship and they want to talk to Marty again. So they go to Doc Brown, but Marty, of course, isn't there anymore. So Doc Brown has to be the one to try to help them so that he doesn't destroy Marty's timeline. Doc Brown's experience with the Manhattan Project, which was just briefly mentioned, there's a full issue about how Doc's wife, Clara, became the Clara we know and love as well. And then the one they're working on now is, well, we know what happens in 1985, but what happens in 1986 to Marty? So this new story they're doing on is a multiple part story, the first multiple part story they're doing, where Marty, after his adventures going through time, is kind of bored now. And it's a year later and nothing's really changing that much. Yes, he's got a nice new truck. And yes, his family is so happy, but now he's bored because he's done all this exciting stuff. And so now what is he going to do? So just, little things here and there. And I'm sure eventually they're going to cover how Doc Brown stole the plutonium in the original one. So it's basically just filling in, how his house burned down, how his house got burned down and how he moved into his little place he's in now, stuff like that. So it's just little minor things that makes it entertaining because, there's still some time travel involved and stuff like that, but it's the characters you like. So it's a really good one. And Gail Simone's Secret Six, I got the first couple issues when they first came out, but they were so late. The 3rd issue was so late that I just stopped reading it. So then eventually they got caught back up and the first trade just came out. So I got caught up. Again, Gail Simone writes a damn fine comic. Secret Six is great. And unfortunately, it's not in the Rebirth. So see what happens with that. All right, so that's everything we got, with the exception of one more thing. This is a big thing for comics, and this is one of the reasons why MJ and I like to do this show, is we want to get more people into comic stores. And the comic industry wants to get more people into the comic stores. And we're in an era now where the comic book movies are really popular, and the comic book TV shows are really popular. So you're getting more people into the stores, but you want to kind of keep it going. So the comic book stores have created, I think it's been 15, 16 years now. They started like around 2000, is the Free Comic Book Day, which everybody knows about. It's now become a part of the lexicon. Everybody knows what Free Comic Book Day is. First Saturday in May, all comic book stores who are participating, they don't have to. It's not up to them, but it behooves them to, because you get a lot of traffic. You get a lot of newspaper and media, because I mean, Free Comic Book Day is the only time that I hear commercials for my local comic store. You know that, and the comic convention in September on Baltimore airwaves. So you see commercials on TV for Free Comic Book Day and for Baltimore Comic Con, and you hear it on the radio. And we have a Maryland Minute where every week the Board of Tourism talks about what's to see in Maryland this week. And that's always one that comes up during the week that Free Comic Book Day is. So it's free publicity, and all you have to do is give away comics for free. Yeah. That's all you got to do. Yeah, you have to buy them. And yes, but they're cheap. They're like 5 cents a copy. So if you order like 500, you're spending what, I don't know, $25 or something like that. And it's worth it in the end, because what you can then do is you give the free comics out to everybody who comes in. No purchase. That's the key. You do not say you cannot get a free comic unless you purchase something. That is against the rules of free comic. That's all the comic book stores have said that. That's not the people who create. They're like, all comic book stores says you can't do that. You have to give away for free. But that being said, you can entice people to buy things to help cover your costs. And they do. They bring in cosplayers. They bring in live radio chats and stuff like that. They have incredible sales at their store, 50%, 60% off of trade paperbacks, new comics, stuff like that. And my comic store is always filled, and people are actually buying stuff. They bring in creators to sign books. So, buy a book, they'll have plenty of copies for, say, Adrian Seif, any book he's on now, they'll have plenty of copies for you. Buy that book. Adrian Seif is there. He can sign it for you. There you go. It makes sense to me. And then, you're recouping some money. So they say, yeah, it's free comics, but it's always good to kind of buy something. Yeah. Now, I don't, because I spend enough money at the comic book store that I can conceivably say, you know what? We don't have to buy anything today because the lines are always outrageous, but they know that eventually I'll come back in and they'll get my money. So it's not like I'm like, F you, I'm never coming back again.
You've done your I'm done. Yeah.
But Free Comic Book Day has become so popular now that it is a huge amount of comics. And I think this is like the biggest amount of free comics they've got coming out this year. There's tons of them. And just real quick, Archie is going to be doing a reprint of their Archie #1, which was the Mark Waid reboot, to make it more modern. But Bongo Comics always does their Simpsons free-for-all, where they do mini Simpsons stories. Boom Studios does their Summer Blast, where they do little stories about all their stuff. Dark Horse is doing a Serenity Hellboy Aliens one. DC is going to release Suicide Squad #1 because Suicide Squad, the movie's coming out in July.
Right. Give it a push.
Yeah. IDW has got the rights to produce ROM comics. Remember ROM?
I remember ROM. Space Knight.
Yep, ROM #0 is coming out via IDW. Their new comics come out in July. Civil War 2 is going to be starting in Marvel, so they've got a prequel book coming out for Free Comic Book Day. That way you can buy it and then next month come back to the comic store and get the series proper. Titan Comics, which publishes Doctor Who, is going to be doing a Doctor Who 4 Doctors story. So 9, 10, 11, and 12 are all going to team up together in one story. So that's pretty cool. Valiant is doing their big storyline, 4001. It's going to start in that. Viz is doing a Pokemon, but then you've got all this other cool stuff. It's all ages stuff. There's a Pink Panther one, Sonic, a Bruce Lee comic. They're doing a DC Superhero Girls, which I talked about earlier. They're going to be doing a free comic book day one for that. Grumpy Cat is going to be getting his own free comic book day. And it's just there's going to be so many. The Phantom, Strawberry Shortcake, Attack on Titan, Captain America '1, because Captain America Civil War is coming out the day before this, so they'll have that as well. Street Fighter, SpongeBob, Bruce Lee, 2000 AD, Assassin's Creed, all kinds of just independent stuff. Yeah. And most comic stores will buy all of them because, they want to give a wide, variety. So people come in who might not necessarily like superheroes, but might like something else. Right. And they're all ages one, and there's ones that are going to be for older kids as well and stuff like that. So they try to widen the spectrum. So go in. There's some really good free comics coming out. It's May 7th. Our show is coming back May 8th, so we'll talk about Captain America Civil War. Obviously, that'll be the majority of what we're going to talk about, the big news, yeah. But Free Comic Book Day is the day before our next episode. So May 6th is a Friday, is when Captain America Civil War comes out. So go see that.
Yep. Skip work that day.
Skip work. I am too.
I am skipping work.
And then Saturday is Free Comic Book Day. So go to your local comic store. If you don't know where your local comic store is, or if you don't know if they're involved in Free Comic Day, because not all of them, you don't have to.
Right.
It's highly recommended
Most
because
will.
Most will, because it's a good opportunity to get people into your store and get more traffic. You've got the Captain America movie coming out, so people are going to want to see that and are going to want to go to the comic store. Right. That's why they basically do it on the first Saturday in May, because they know that usually there's going to be a comic book movie that Friday, so people are going to come in and see it. So go to your whatever search engine you use and type in Free Comic Book Day Locator, or FCBD Locator. It'll take you to the website. You just type in your zip code, and it'll give you all the comic stores that are going to be participating in Free Comic Book Day within like 25 miles of that zip code. So you'll be able to find one. It's like, oh, wow, this one's right down the street, or this one's about half hour away, but there's none any closer. I want to go to that one, and then you can go to their website, and they'll probably have a link to what they've got coming. Like my store, they always have creative people up there, because the guy who owns my local comic store is the guy who runs the Baltimore Comic Con. So he's got connections. So he calls on them and says, hey, it's Free Comic Book Day. Why don't you come over and hang out and, sign some books, and then they'll be back for, the convention in September. So he's able to draw from that. And we've also got a lot of local talent. Frank Cho, who's on Totally Awesome Hawk right now. He is a local guy and is actually really good friends with my local comic store owner, and he's always there on Free Comic Book Day. So he'll probably be there signing Totally Awesome Hawk stuff. My former co-worker at Diamond, Philip Sablick, who now is one of the big wigs at Boom Studios, he sometimes comes back to the East Coast. He lives out in California now, but he still has family on the East Coast in Baltimore. So he and his family fly out to here, and he might go up because he was also friends with the guy who owns this store also. So he might pop up, and he's a writer too. He's written some stuff, but he might be a guy you might want to ask questions about, because he's a Boom Studios guy and he's a head honcho there, so he can give you info about what's coming up, Boom Studios, stuff like that. So we get all kinds of local guys, and then sometimes we had Gail Simone there, I think, once. And we've had other people as well. They've gotten people from England to come over before. So once again, he's got the connections because of the Comic-Con. So, and there's lots of, it's amazing how many comic stores are within 25 miles of my zip code. And I've been to most of them, but I just like my one right up here because it's 5 minutes away, and they give me a discount even though I'm not a subscriber. I don't get the full discount if you're a subscriber, but I get a little one, which is good. And so that's all great. So go May 7th. Saturday, go support comics. There's a lot of good stuff. I guarantee you'll find something you'll like. They're all ages book. There's grown-up books. There's comic book superheroes, stuff you might be, never thought you might like, but you may as well just try. Why not? What do you got to lose? It's a free comic. You pick it up, you read it. This is crap. You throw it out.
Nothing lost.
Yeah, exactly. So, on that note, I think we're going to nip this in the bud. Again, thanks, MJ, for hanging out.
Thank you.
And don't go see Batman Superman.
Ooh, my goodness, no. That's a Redbox special right there.
Yeah, convince me. I'm probably not going to go, but maybe it'll be a DVD or something. But yeah, supposedly the Ultimate Edition's coming out in July. The R-rated cut is like, really? You're going to add half an hour to it to make it 3 hours now? Okay.
No, I can't. I'd rather be tortured.
But it's smart, MJ. It's smarter than Marvel.
It's much
but but so we'll be back on May 8th, the day after Free Comic Book Day, and the weekend of Captain America: Civil War. Obviously, we'll probably be talking because both MJ and I will see the movie opening weekend. We'll probably be, and tell you what, we will be spoiling the hell out of the movie probably. So
if it happens, we're going to talk about it.
Exactly. So we'll let you know, and we'll probably have just a discussion about Captain America: Civil War. Basically, will take up the majority of the show next month. So go see it so you can listen to us without being spoiled. Hold on a second. Myrna just wrote something here. Let's see what Myrna has to say. I won't remember much later. It was interesting to hear about all the comic books. Okay, thanks, Myrna. She was listening, so. Oh, we forgot to talk about Walking Dead. We've got some time. You got 10 minutes, MJ? Sure. Just real quick. This is what I think is going to happen. Negan's coming today. You've read all the theories that, Daryl's going to die, or Glenn's going to die, or Maggie's going to die, or Abraham's going to die, or Eugene's going to die, or everybody's going to die. And from what I've also heard is they might piss off a lot of people, as we said earlier, where they'll have it'll be Negan will be full screen, and he's got Lucille says, you're the unlucky winner, and then the battle come down multiple times, but it'll be from their perspective, so you won't know who got killed until the premiere in October.
Which I hope that doesn't happen. I can understand why they would do it, but I'm like, come on,
Yeah, but in my eyes, in the comics, they didn't really kill that many of the saviors. So it was okay, I guess, for him to just take out one guy.
Right.
In this case, they've taken out 30 plus. Yeah. And I don't think one guy is going to do it. I think they're going to kill multiple people. I've been saying that for a while. I think they're going to kill 2 to 3 people. I've been thinking more and more that they're not going to kill Glenn because they like to do stuff that isn't obvious, and that's all they talk about when they talk about Negan. Right. Glenn's the one that gets killed by Negan, so he's on the chopping block. Well, everybody knows he's going to die, so now it's not that big of a surprise if he does die because, he died in the comics. So now they're probably going to twist it around, and it's going to be something different. And we've heard the comments from all the cast members. It was the hardest episode we've ever shot. I felt physically ill. It's going to be insane. So there's there's all kinds of theories and stuff like that are coming. We don't really know what's going to happen. But I personally think that there's going to be more than one death. Unfortunately, I think we might not see the main death via Lucille till next season. We won't know who that is, but there might be a few scattered because it is 90 minutes, which is basically it's an hour of episode of just episode and then a half hour of commercials. Basically, it's going to be the 90 minutes, and so they'll mix them together. But I'm thinking you're going to get a 60-minute episode with 30 minutes of commercials. So we'll see. But there's a lot to go on. We'll see if Morgan and Carol are going to have their SmackDown.
What happens there?
Happens with that story because the thing is, you don't want to, excuse the crudity I'm about to say, blow your load, with just Negan. Right, supposedly Negan is more of a cameo in this episode, and that's not. And they're saying not till the very end of the show. Once again, that could be they're blowing smoke up our ass, and he's going to be a major part of the episode. But I don't think so because I think they want to make it a big surprise. They're going to be building to this. Like the last 10 minutes will be Negan's appearance, where they're going to cover all the other stuff. So we'll see about that.
I think so too.
Yeah. So do I think Daryl's going to die? I think Daryl's going to die. I think more and more now. I think Maggie's going to die because that would be a bit more brutal
That would be a blow to them emotionally. Yes, everybody.
Then Glenn dying, and Abraham. I don't know, because they killed Denise the Abraham method. So Abraham should have died with the arrow through the eye, but he didn't. So are they going to keep Abraham around now? That's the thing, and that's what's great about the series is now the comic readers are about as lost as others, but they're still going to keep some of the comics in there. Obviously, someone is going to die, going to get their head caved in. Or is it also going to be maybe no one is going to get their head caved in? Or maybe it's going to be another theory is that Rick is going to have to choose who dies. Yeah. And he's going to have to kill them or something like that. Yeah. So that would be emotionally strenuous also. So, or maybe it'll be both. Maybe Rick has to choose and he doesn't choose quick enough. So Negan kills somebody to say, and then says, no, we'll do it again unless you kill this person. And so, as I said, we'll see. But I don't know have you heard about this also? Last week's episode when Morgan and Rick were out there and they shot at the one guy, he looked like someone from the Kingdom, because remember he had like that armor and stuff on, and he had the spear. So we might have seen our first vision of the Kingdom, and they should be popping up in the new season coming in October. Right. So for those who haven't read the comics, I think they're going to try to hem close to the comics, not necessarily the same people and stuff like that. But I'm going to tell you right now, all this attitude that Rick's been having and Michonne, everybody thinking that they are unbeatable and stuff like that, they're going to be brought down very badly, and they're not going to win for a long time. I'm just going to warn you ahead of time. and Negan is going to become
not as cocky as he should. He's going to get brought down to earth. You're right. Yeah.
And Negan's going to become a regular character, a series regular next season, because he is. His story is so huge and so overwhelmingly crazy that it's coming up. So. That's about it. And that's really all I want to talk about is that, I think there's going to be multiple deaths. Right. What do you think, MJ?
I think there's going to be more than just one or two. And I don't think it's going to be Glenn, because basically in my mind, he's dead anyway. He died under the dumpster, but whatever. So, I don't think it's going to be him. I do think it's going to be someone that he's going to have a hard time recovering from. And I think that, I don't know. I just hope that they don't end it in a way that you don't know who it is. I'm like, no, I need to know who dies. And then I can pick it back up. I'm still going to watch it in October either way. She might as well show us who died instead of, dragging it out over the summer. So
exactly. But, this season, though, they've been pulling all that kind of shit. Yeah, I just have a bad feeling they're going to do it. I think they're going to do cliffhanger, and people are going to go, well, no. And then for the next 3 or 4, let's see. March, April, May, June, July, August, September, 7 months. People are going to be like,
long time.
They're going to discuss who's dead, who's going to die, and then we'll see it. I don't know. We'll see. But we'll see. Yeah. So that's going to be up and over with. And then Fear the Walking Dead starts up next week. Hopefully it'll be better. I'll watch it. If it doesn't get better, I might have to.
I'm kind of interested about the whole boat thing, so we'll see what happens with that. But if it gets all, I don't know, slow and boring, I'll drop that. So.
Yeah, drop it like it's hot.
There you go.
So if you want to know more about Walking Dead and the reaction to it, I will be on The Snooze with Tony Solo on Thursday, 9:00. We've got some special guests coming on. MJ can't make it. He was invited, but he can't make it this time.
I did tell him that if I did move, if I had to, I can. So,
okay.
I sent Tony a separate email and said, I looked at some wrong dates. So we'll see.
Okay. If you can, you can. If you can't, you can't. Regardless, it'll be fun either way. But we will be having a discussion about this whole second half of the season, whatever cliffhanger, if any, comes up in this episode. Or, wouldn't it be funny if Negan's like, you know what? I'm glad you killed all the assholes. Come to Negan. Come to Negan. We're all buds now. Let's hug it out. Yeah. Let's
I don't see it, but it could. Yeah.
Let's start killing other people now too.
Let's team up.
That would be funny though. That would really put the carpet under everybody.
What?
Lucille, here, why don't you have it? Rick, here, go ahead. Why don't you bash someone's head? Hey, this guy killed Dwight. Dwight's an asshole. He shot Daryl.
Maybe in this one, Lucille will be a woman. This is my wife, Lucille. I'm like, oh God.
Myrna says it would be horrible if they killed off Maggie. Yes, it would be horrible. And the thing is with Maggie is in the comics, spoiler in the comics, she doesn't die. she ends up going to Hilltop, and she ends up taking over and running Hilltop. And if they decide to kill Maggie, I can actually see Carol stepping into that role and leading Hilltop on that way, because she's going through this whole crisis of faith. Maybe her and Morgan are gonna fight it out or hug it out or talk it out or whatever, and it's gonna make her not be this mopey Carol, which I'm not.
I don't like this one.
I don't like this mopey Carol. No. I like her killing people. I like her, stuff like that, and capable being Carol. Both, capable Carol, and maybe that'll lead to her taking over Hilltop if Maggie is the one that does get killed. Right. So as I said, we'll see. But again, they pulled a really good smokescreen on us, because everybody was saying, well, we have proof that Maggie's going to die because Laura Cohen has cut her hair. It doesn't look like Maggie's hair, and obviously she's going to die. But then we saw in last week's episode, oh wait, Edith cut her hair. So so that's why she doesn't look like Maggie, is because Edith already cut her hair. Right. So that's kind of funny, because now you're like, okay, maybe Maggie's not going to die. But everyone should. Here's the thing. And I agree with you. I hope we find out who gets killed. Right. Because I don't know if I can stand another 7 months of people saying, well, what if it's this guy, or what if it's this guy, or it should be this guy, or we'll see.
We'll just need to
but on that, yes, wait to see. Watch it tonight, 9:00. It's an hour and a half, so that means it'll be over 10:30, maybe over a little bit, maybe 10:35, whatever. Yeah. And then Talking Dead will be on. And don't freak out. Yes, Norman Reedus is going to be on the show, but I remember him. I remember him being on the show before, and he didn't die, and he was on there. So I personally think Daryl probably will be the one to die, because he's pretty much, with Jesus in tow, he's pretty much outlived his purpose for the most part, because Jesus is basically Daryl. But we'll see. I like Norman Reedus. But I'm just saying, if he's the one who dies,
not a surprise.
It's not a surprise. Right. All right. So, Walking Dead tonight, 9:00, hour and a half. So 10:30 will be over. So if you don't want to watch Talking Dead because it's 10:30 and you need to go to work, I got to go to work. But we'll see how I feel about staying up for Talking Dead. Maybe we'll watch the first half of it. I don't know. Thursday, The Snooze, Dylan Lang, Tony Solo, and special guests talking this whole half season of Walking Dead and the finale. Next Sunday, we're going to be starting at 12:00 because my co-host Jerry Fletcher has got a prior engagement around 2:30ish, so we can't really start too late at 12:30. So we'll be starting at 12:00 next Sunday. We'll be doing our list show. It'll be top 10 disaster films. So we'll be talking disaster films. Yeah, so that should be a lot of fun. And then after that, we'll see what happens. I'll probably do another solo show. I have no idea what I'm going to talk about. And then I'm going to try to bring back Dylan Knows International. I haven't had an episode with Brahman in about 3 months, but because of various things have happened that we haven't had a chance to make. It's been close to 4 months now, actually. We haven't had a chance to get together. We'll try and get that set up and hopefully have one in April. So, and then back here, May 8th, Sunday, 12:30. Probably, MJ, if there's a conflict, we can work it out. Yeah. May 7th is Free Comic Book Day. May 6th is Captain America Civil War. So go see it. We'll be discussing it. Yes, we'll be talking about it. So on that note, I'm going to say good night. Good night, MJ, again.
Good night. Have a good one.
And go Orioles.
Yes.
Opening day tomorrow.
Opening day tomorrow.
Baseball's back. See y'all later.